Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with your boy Serge, and today I thought it'd be fun to do a tier list of Resident Evil games, right? I'm doing it because it's in celebration of Resident Evil 9, and I still can't believe we're on number 9 in the franchise, right? I remember when the first RE game came out way back in the day, and looking back it just makes me feel old because I'm as old as the franchise. But yeah, if you don't see your favorite game at the top of the list, sorry, not sorry, right? I'm just ranking these games based on my own opinion. And to be fair, if it's a RE game that I haven't played or haven't played that much of, I'm not gonna put it on the list. But anyways, let's get started with number one, the first RE game. Right, it introduced us to the world of Resident Evil. Without this game, would we ever have the genre of survival horror? Right, and we got iconic characters such as Chris, Jill, and everybody's favorite guy, Barry. Who can forget his iconic line, "You almost became a Jill sandwich."
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
But yeah, even though it's a little bit dated with its tank controls and graphics, and who can forget the dubbing and the acting, that's what gives this game its charm, right? And that's why people come back to play this game. Once in a while, I replay the first RE game, and believe it or not, it has some replayability to it because you have multiple endings and stuff like that. And I suggest you play it. It's pretty good, and it still holds up to this day. Like I said, even though it's a bit dated, it's still fun to play. So for our first listing, we have RE1 at the S tier. Alrighty, this is fitting for number two. I'm pretty sure all of you guys agree. Resident Evil fans could agree with me on this one. Resident Evil 2, right? Pun intended, because it's a second game. Rank 2, number 2. Anyways, Resident Evil 2, it's just a great game overall, right? It improved on the weaknesses of the first RE game, introduced more lore into the RE universe, with the introduction of Raccoon City, right? Introduced us to more iconic characters such as everybody's favorite bad boy, Leon, right? Was coming back in Resident Evil 9. Claire Redfield, and Ada Wong. And as well as introduced us to new iconic enemies such as the Licker and Mr. X. Who's gonna give it to you? Mr. X is. But yeah, I love Resident Evil 2. It's fun to play. I love its I had two stories to play this time, right? You can either play Leon's or Claire's story. And sometimes, well, it depends on the scenario, right? um, Depending on what you do, and like one story, it affects the other character's story, right? Which is, well, at least back in the day, it was revolutionary, and it blew my mind. Like, but yeah, number two, S tier, Resident Evil 2. Next on the list is Resident Evil 3. To be honest, I'm sort of iffy. I feel like it's for me. It's between A and S. It's in that level, but I'm putting it on the S rank, just because we get more of Jill, right? We get to explore Raccoon City, right, which is fun and neat. During the when Raccoon City was going down the crapper, and we get another iconic villain, Nemesis, and it's scary when this guy pops out because he's just nonstop, and when you hear stars, you're in trouble. But yeah, number three, S tier, Resident Evil 3. All right, for the C tier, we got Code Veronica X. This one kind of hurts a bit because I remember playing this game back in the day when I was younger, and I thought, okay, it's not that bad. But as I got older and replayed it, I was like, this game's not that good actually. It's nice to see Claire and Chris again, right? As well as Wesker. Spoilers. But it's just I feel like the level design was just kind of bad. The puzzles weren't really that great, and who can forget Steve? Steve was just annoying. But I will give him this. He's a G for sacrificing himself for Claire, even though he was simping. But yeah, C tier, Code Veronica X. Now we're sort of moving into the modern era of Resident Evil, right? And we got Resident Evil 1, the remake. This one's going on the S tier because it's just basically a rework of Resident Evil, right? We got a new paint job, right, with the HD graphics. They added in some extra content like the graveyard. I forgot that girl that they did experiments on, right? They added that part in the game. As well as, you think it's a one-on-one copy of RE1, right? But nope. You just don't simply kill zombies. You gotta worry about the new enemies like the Crimson Heads, right? And in order to prevent that from happening, you gotta burn the zombies, right? The bodies. But you can't do that all the time because you have limited gasoline. So that's one thing I loved about the RE remake, right? It changes things up a lot. And yeah, it's just a great game overall. And I suggest you buy it because this game usually goes on sale as a bundled with Resident Evil Zero for cheap. So yeah, if you can, try to buy the bundle. Therefore, you get 2 games for the price of 1. Speaking of Resident Evil Zero, it pains me to put it on here. But I'm putting it on the C tier because I have the same problems with it. Just as with the problem. Pardon me. Let me rephrase that. The problems I have with Code Veronica X, I have the same problems with RE0. I love the characters. I love how it talks about the events that occurred before RE1 with what happened to Bravo team, right? As well as talking about what happened with Wesker and Birkin, right? What they were doing behind the scenes. However, like I said with Code Veronica, the level design is kind of bad. I feel like this one has a lot of backtracking. I know it's a thing in RE games to backtrack, but I feel like it's worse here in Resident Evil Zero. And the boss fights, they're not really that great in my opinion, especially the bat. The bat was just so annoying. And spoilers again. To me, it doesn't make sense that how after the events of RE0, Claire is it's a more courageous person, right? But in RE1, she sort of reverts back to her timid self. It just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, Resident Evil Zero for the C tier. Alrighty, for the A tier, I put Resident Evil Outbreak as well as Outbreak File Number 2. Because if you think about it, File Number 2 is just basically DLC for Outbreak Number 1. And for those of you that don't know, Resident Evil Outbreak was a co-op game, right? You can still play it single player, but this game was, built to be a co-op game. And it takes place during the events of Raccoon City. Like it shows you like the beginning of the destruction of Raccoon City, right? And by that I mean when the zombies started invading the city. And it takes you to pardon me. And throughout this game, you go to different locations within Raccoon City, which is cool, right? Because everybody loves to or wants to try to learn more about Raccoon City and what type of events happen during the game, right? And not only that, you get to play as different characters who each have their own unique abilities. And it's a very difficult game because you not only do you have to worry about taking damage from zombies, you have limited inventory space, as well as you got sort of like a timer with like your infection meter. So every time you take damage from a zombie, you become more affected, right? And if you reach full infection, it's basically game over and your character becomes a zombie, which is cool and kind of sad at the same time because it's like, damn, one of my favorite characters is a zombie. I'm gonna have to kill you, dude. But yeah, for the A tier, I put RE Outbreak. And I hope Capcom decides to remake these games one of these days because it will be a fun online game to play with friends. Alrighty, now we're moving on to Resident Evil 4, one of the goats of gaming, right? One of the best video games I ever played, and one of the best RE games in the RE series. If you're a Resident Evil fan, I'm pretty sure you can agree with me on that. And it's been ported everywhere because that's how good it is. RE4 is going in the S tier. In a way, it was sort of revolutionary for the franchise, right? Being able to shoot in third person, it just gives you more control on what you could shoot, right? Not only that, it was a perfect blend of action and horror. And not only that, it was good to see Leon, everybody's favorite bad boy again, right? And just him being witty. The dialogue was pretty funny. As well as seeing Ada and introducing us to other characters like Luis, Ashley. Um,
Over here, stranger.
I forgot what the guy was with the knife. I'll probably edit it in later in the video. But yeah. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 was just such a great game. Perfect. And the OG version still holds up to today, right? And sometimes I do prefer playing the OG version over the remake. And it's funny because I remember when this game came out, I feel like for a while other games were just trying to copy Resident Evil 4, right? With its blend of action and horror as well as with third person shooting, but nothing ever came close to Resident Evil 4. Again, one of the greatest games out there, and I suggest you play it. Alrighty, next on the list we got Resident Evil 5, right? I'm putting it in the A tier. It's a great game. And just like Resident Evil 4, it's nice to see old faces again, like Chris, Jill, and Wesker. And I like Sheva. She's a pretty cool character as well. And Resident Evil 5, it improved on the gameplay a bit, right? How can I say it? The third person shooting felt better, right? But one thing that was holding it back was the AI, right? Like your partner's AI. If you're playing single player, Sheva was just stupid, to put it bluntly, right? And right now I'm playing RE5, and that's what I'm dealing with right now as well. And because of Resident Evil 5, I felt like Capcom just decided to go all in with the action with the Resident Evil franchise. And at the time, some fans didn't like that, including myself. But I'm glad to see Resident Evil trying to move back into the horror aspect of the whole franchise, right? But yeah, for A tier we got Resident Evil 5. Alrighty, next we got some interesting games for the Resident Evil series, right? And that is Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, as well as Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles, right? So these games play like arcade shooters, right? And by that I mean like if you ever played like those light gun games from the arcade, that's what they played, right? But instead of a gun, well, you could buy the little peripherals. You use your motion controllers, right? So if you had it on the Wii, you used the Wii remote to shoot and aim, and on the PlayStation, you had to use the PlayStation Move controller or just a PS3 controller, right? Now these aren't the first games that play like this. You had Resident Evil Survivor first, and then Dead Aim. But like I said, if I haven't played any of RE games, certain RE games, and I'm not gonna put them on the list, which is why I haven't put them on the tier list. But I have played these two because I own them on the PS3. The reason why I put Umbrella Chronicles on the A tier is because it's way better than Darkside Chronicles, right? Just the way it plays, it gives you a little bit more freedom because you get to choose certain routes, right? And certain routes have secrets in them. And then Darkside Chronicles, it's a lot more linear. It's just more like go from point A to point B, and it looks a lot more uglier than the Umbrella Chronicles if you play them, right? You can tell the difference right away. But yeah, the cool thing about both games is that they give you insight into what happened between or before certain events that took place during the Resident Evil timeline, right? Like for example, in Umbrella Chronicles, it shows you how Wesker survived the mansion explosion, as well as how Ada survived as well, right? You get to play as Ada too. And same thing with the Dark Side Chronicles. It shows you the events that occurred before Resident Evil 4 with Leon and his partner. I think it was Kaiser, the knife wielding guy, right? About the special mission they did in the South America. And not only that, you also play like sort of, how can I explain it? Retelling of like Resident Evil, certain Resident Evil games, like, right? Like for example, in Umbrella Chronicles, you play like a shortened version of Resident Evil 3. Same thing with Dark Side Chronicles. You play like a shortened version of Resident Evil 2 as well. So yeah, for A tier we got Umbrella Chronicles, and C tier Dark Side Chronicles because it's the weakest out of the two games. And if you have a Wii or PS3, I suggest you try to play these games. Actually, scratch that because, well, if you could get a physical copy. Digital copy, I don't think you can get anymore because the Wii store and the PS3 store both shut down, which sucks. Alright, next on the list. This could go on either the A or B tier, but my gut tells me to put it on the B tier. But I'm giving it a high B plus, and that is Resident Evil Revelations. It's a great game. So it first came out on the 3DS, and then eventually onto modern consoles. It plays well, but it does feel a bit wonky sometimes with the controllers because, you know, they had to translate the controls from a handheld device onto like a regular control. The story's pretty great. Nothing to write home about. But it's nice to see that Capcom trying to return Resident Evil to its like horror origins, right? Because I'm pretty sure by this time people were just tired of Resident Evil being like more action oriented than horror oriented, right? And it was nice to see familiar faces like Chris and Jill. So yeah, I'm putting RE Revelations in the B tier. Alright, next on the list we got Resident Evil 2 Remake. Putting this on the S tier because, come on, it's a great game. I was surprised they even decided to remake RE2 and from the ground up, right? They gave it a nice paint job, modernized it with modern game mechanics such as modern controls and a third person camera angle, right? And it was just nice seeing our favorite iconic characters in HD models this time around, right? Like Leon, everybody's favorite bad boy, like I said previously, Claire, and Ada. And Sherry, I guess. And as well as seeing old enemies like the Licker and I think Mr. X. He became more iconic because of this game, right? And he's a lot more relentless this time around. Unlike in the OG RE2 remake, RE2, you were after enough hits you were able to knock him out, but this time around you only stun him, and he gets back up, and he's a lot more relentless in this game. He hunts you down, and currently I'm playing this game on professional mode, and oh my god, man, this guy's just beating me to a pulp every time I encounter him, or a zombie as well, right? And that's what makes this game a lot more terrifying, right? You don't have time to relax. You gotta be on your toes every time, right? And one thing I was afraid of was I thought this game was gonna be a little bit more action oriented because, you know, with the third person camera angle, it's like, okay, I can aim perfectly and take out these zombies like nothing. No. When you're aiming down your sights, it's like your crosshairs is all wobbly. Sometimes headshots are not the best way to take down a zombie, and just like the OG RE games, you gotta be careful with your resources. You can't be a cowboy and waste your ammo, right? You gotta save your ammo and save your herbs as well, right? And if you're playing on pro mode, You gotta be you gotta choose where to save carefully. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 remake on the S tier. All right, next on the list. Now everybody, mostly everybody, most Resident Evil fans can agree that this is one of the worst RE games in the series. But I do have some fond memories of this game. But when I had to put RE6 on the C tier, first discover what made this game bad, right? So Capcom this time around was like, you know what? Let's go balls out the walls this time and turn the action up to 100%. Make it a Michael Bay film. Like if you played it, you know like the extreme like scenarios like with the plane, right? The Gears of War play style, right? Stuff like that. The bad camera. And overall, just this game, like I said, just straying away from the horror survival aspect of Resident Evil, right? Like it wasn't a bad game, but sometimes it did play wonky. And a couple of good things. Moving on to the pros of the game, I guess. You got like multiple, like stories, characters to play as, right? And they each have their own different stories. Like you get to play as Leon, Chris, and what's the third one? Oh, Sherry, and I forgot the guy's Rutger's son. It was kind of forgettable. But yeah, everybody could agree that Leon's was the best because you know zombies and it's Leon. Everybody else's stories was okay, and you get to play as Ada's story as well. But yeah, this is where Capcom said screw it, no, no more survival horror, going 100% action. Also the I think Resident Evil 6 had the best mercenaries mode out there. So yeah, C tier Resident Evil 6. And if they do decide to remake it, I hope they fix the problems they had with Resident Evil 6, right? All right, next on the list we got 7 and 8. So first, I'll talk about 7. I'll put down the S tier, right? So by this time, Capcom saw the writing on the wall, right? They're like, "Damn, we screwed up. Forget the action. Let's go back to our horror roots." However, they did copy somebody's homework, and that somebody's homework was Hideo Kojima's PT or Silent Hill, right? And we all know what happened to PT. It got scrapped by Konami. If they didn't cancel it, that probably would have been one of the scariest games out there. But yeah, Capcom copied PT because they, just like PT, they decided to make Resident Evil 7 a first-person horror or FPS sort of like shooter, right? FPS horror shooter. Let's call it that. But yeah, overall, it was a great game, and it really was scary. We play as a new character, Ethan, right? He's just a regular Joe Smo. He doesn't have muscles. He can't punch a bulger, and that just makes the situation you're in a little bit more scary, right? Especially when you're going up against the Baker family, right? They are iconic villains, especially in their own right. Especially the dad. But yeah, you're always being chased down by them, and they show no mercy sometimes. And it's funny because at the time I thought after 6, where can Resident Evil go with the story? But Capcom was able to find a way with Resident Evil 7. I will admit, it does feel a little bit wonky sometimes because, you know, the first person camera, right? But it's a good game. Which brings us to Resident Evil 8, right? I'll put this on the A tier. Right? Resident Evil 8, you play as Ethan again, right? The story was alright too. It's again a first person shooter, a little bit more action oriented this time around. but there were some survival horror aspects as well, right? And come on, everybody got their new favorite waifu, Lady. I might be pronouncing it wrong, Lady Domiscu, right? But yeah, I thought Resident Evil 8 was okay in my opinion. It just felt like it went a little bit too crazy sometimes. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a good game, both games. All right, lastly, we got our last two remakes here. Now, I'm going against the rule I made earlier where if I haven't played a Resident Evil game, I'm not going to put it on the tier list, right? But I've seen a lot of videos about this game to give me a general idea about what this game felt at, right? And what it's about. Resident Evil 3. I was really looking forward to RE3, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys were. But after seeing videos or if you played the game, I was just disappointed, right? Again, Capcom missed a great opportunity at allowing the players to be able to explore Raccoon City, right? At their own leisure, right? In full detail. But now it just felt a lot linear, right? You had to go from point A to point B. And Nemesis, unlike Mr. X, he doesn't seem that terrifying, right? He's just a lot more bland. He just like a one-sided character, always pursuing you. Well, not always, because like I said from videos I've seen, he doesn't follow you everywhere. As long as you're in a safe spot, he can't get to you. Which sort of makes you being chased down by a BOW not that scary anymore, right? And not only that, they took out some stuff from the original RE3 game, right? Like, for example, they took out the clock tower and the zoo, right? So that was some content cut, which sucks, right? Nobody likes that. Which is why I'm putting RE3 in the D tier. And now, from 3 to Resident Evil 4. I'll put this in the S tier. Because Resident Evil 4 Remake, it's a great game. I thought Resident Evil 4 OG was great as is, but Capcom was able to find a way to make it better. To be honest, I keep thinking, like, was it really necessary to make Resident Evil 4? Not really, but it's good, right? They did fix some stuff with the pacing, right? They introduced some new stuff, like with some new mechanics, like the parry mechanic, which is cool. All right. They redid some characters and stuff like that, and they expanded on like the whole quest stuff, like quest lines and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool. And it gives you a little bit more freedom by allowing you to explore the village a little bit more, right? Which I thought was cool, as well as retcons and stuff. The only thing I dislike about Resident Evil 4 was I'm pretty sure because they were being greedy, Capcom decided to cut like the end game content or side content from the Resident Evil 4 OG RE4, like the Ada story, right? And they turned those into paid DLC, which sucks. Which I hate, because that would have been cool if that just came with the game, right? But yeah, that's it with my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know which is your favorite Resident Evil game in the series. And if you're interested, I'll be streaming probably some Resident Evil games in the future. Currently, I'm streaming Resident Evil 5, and I would like to try to platinum it again. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching. And until next time, stay safe and stay blessed. Peace.